Hey everybody, welcome to the Great Roman Forum and welcome to TE Walks Live. My name is Rob Allen and I'm your host today. I'm also the founder of Through Eternity Tours. Now, I just showed you a wonderful picture where we started from. I think it's a very good place to start. A lot of musicals keep on going through my head right now. Funny thing happened on the way to the forum. Yes, I had to say it because I'm a cornball. But anyway, let's get to the point here. You're looking at a wonderful symbol of the Roman Forum that even when the place was covered up, and yes, it was covered up, you could always see these three columns of the Temple of Castor and Pollux. And then right behind it, you can see that we have the Palatine Hill. All right, the Palatine Hill, which is the first of the 7 hills of Rome. There we go. Focusing in is a little slow, but I just wanted to show you, yes, people can get up there all the way to the top and view it. Okay, now, we're going to be walking through the Roman Forum today for about 30-40 minutes, and I love it as a great place for the starting point of Rome, but you know what? It's also a great starting point for Through Eternity Tours. You know, we call yourselves Through Eternity because it's not a religious cult or anything. We're walking through the eternal city, and this is where we started. So you have to imagine, when we didn't have a lot of publicity, how could we promote ourselves? And when I was doing my tour of the Roman Forum, it was kind of, not the Forum, excuse me, when I was doing my tour of St. Peter's Square, it was so exciting for me. It was so vibrant for me, and it reminded me of what I used to do over 20 years ago, and I wanted to kind of share that with you, because I would do promotional tours in the Roman Forum. I would wait outside of the entrance and say, hey guys, would you like to join me for a free promo tour just to get a taste of what we do, and maybe you'd like to sign up for some of our other tours, and maybe I'd ask for tips later on. Well, don't worry guys, I'm not going to ask you for any tips today. Today is a completely free tour, but it's a TE Walks live tour, but it is absolutely a promo tour. We are trying to promote something so important to help us out, to help so many of the guides who are freelance workers for our virtual tours. So we're giving you a taste of what we do. And I just wanted you guys I wanted to share that with you because I think it's kind of wonderful to share the history of our company itself and what we have been doing for so many years. Now, let's go to what we want to be talking about. Now, forgive the wind and the noise, but here we are. I'm going to take a walk around it. Guys, I'm in an archaeological dig, okay? The Roman Forum is an archaeological dig that has been going on for over 150 years now. Ever since the popes lost their power, they started to dig here. They always knew it was here, but we're going to talk about how it was covered up. They were getting back to the Temple of Castor and Pollux, of course, and the Palatine Hill. Now, what we have right in front of me, where these kids are kind of playing behind that stone wall, is also a very important spot. It is the altar of Julius Caesar. But first, let us talk about what is, well, I promised to give you guys in my little teaser that you can see beforehand that I would explain an oversimplified history lesson of Rome, but I even realize when I do my tours normally, an oversimplified history lesson takes about 15 to 20 minutes. So let us just put it this way. You have to imagine if Rome was founded in 753 BC, legend has it by Romulus, that there were 7 kings that ruled Rome for 250 years. And then after that, there was a republic for about 450 years. And then in about 44 BC, of course, with the assassination of Julius Caesar, we have the empire till about 313 AD with the coming of Constantine. These are the 3 time periods we want to talk about when we deal with ancient Rome. So we have the kingdom, the republic, and the empire. And most stuff that we see deals with the Roman Empire. So I talked about the catalyst from the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. So many people want to know, Rob, where was Julius Caesar assassinated in the Roman Forum? Well, guys, he wasn't assassinated here, but I can give you a second best because they had a funeral procession going through, and this plaque right over here talks about it. It talks about the fact that there were people speaking. They had Julius Caesar's funeral, and then people like Brutus and Cassius and Mark Antony spoke at this funeral. Then the people were so impassioned by what these men had to say that they rioted. They rent their clothes, they grabbed anything flammable and piled it on his body and ignited him. Now you have to imagine, guys, that was completely illegal to be done. It was not done. Cremation, burials were for outside the Roman center, okay? Now I want you to take a close look. We're gonna walk up to the altar. There's another colleague of mine who's actually giving a tour. It's not great to see, and he's doing it in English. But anyway, my friend and I, when I fell in love with Rome, she said, come with me, it's the Ides of March. Let's throw some flowers and coins on the altar of Julius Caesar. Okay. And I said, why not? And that's where my love story started with the city of Rome. All right, guys, so we've got to see his altar, but now I need to explain to you, what is the Roman Forum? Well, you have to imagine forum is actually a word that derives from outside, because up over on the Palatine hill, that was the first of the 7 hills of Rome, okay? Now, there are other hills, like right here, we have the Capitoline Hill. Then we have, it's beyond the church and the Senate House, the Quirinal Hill, the Viminal Hill, the Esquiline Hill. Okay, so that is 5 of the 7 hills. And this entire area here was a marshy area that they had to drain out, because you have tribes on tops of the hills, but it was easier, instead of going down one hill and going up another, for them to build a communal meeting place. And so that's what this was created. They built the Cloaca Maxima, the sewer which still works today, and it drained out completely to build this. So the forum then became and evolved as meaning the city center, but it was the business, political, and religious center, okay? And we'll look at some of those things. Of course, we talk about religion. Well, we're going to be walking on the Via Sacra right now. The Via Sacra is the sacred way, okay? So this means that it was a place that people would follow, and it would eventually lead you to all the temples of the Forum. This right here is one of my favorite monuments of the Roman Forum. This is the Temple of Antoninus and Faustina. And if you do hear chaos going on, it's kind of authentic, guys. You have to imagine that Rome was a city of over 1 million people, and they always talked about how crowded and noisy it was. Now look here, guys. Remember, I always like to have us look up, but then I also want us to look down. Do you remember when we were in St. Peter's, we walked on the little St. Peter's, the stones, the cobblestones? Well, these cobblestones are made of the same material as this. These are the original ancient Roman roads. All right, imagine this, guys. Now, this was not how it used to be. Of course, it was not as difficult to walk on, and forgive me if it's a little bumpy while we're walking through. It was something that was very flat, with no space in between the stones. They were efficient. This is throughout the centuries. It was kind of, let's say, reset when the archaeologists dug down here. Okay, this is made with the same stones, the basalt, the volcanic rock, and there's even a sewer running underneath it. Sometimes you'll even see something that says like 1903, which ruins my story, but these are the original stones. And so I always want you guys to imagine that who may have walked on these stones that we're walking on, because it's my job to kind of spark your imaginations, to make this place come alive. That's why I love the Roman Forum, more so than the Colosseum, almost as much as St. Peter's. I love St. Peter's too. That's why I chose these places to show you. All right, now, what's also very interesting, I mentioned to you that this place is an archaeological dig that's been going on for over 150 years, 1870, right? 150 years. Now, if you guys look here, that is the ramp, that is the entryway. Now, many of you may have been to the Forum already, but it's something that you have to walk down to get into it. All right, up there you can see where we have at the Imperial Forums. Our guide Cinzia does an amazing job of her virtual tour of the Imperial Forums. Anyway, along with Francesca with her Forum tour. Anyway, that is the street level of modern Rome, okay? Why is that? Why did this get covered over in dirt? Well, you have to imagine that it was the religious center of the pagans, and so people eventually abandoned it. You know, Rome was abandoned by many, many people when they had the barbarians attacking it. Remember, everything I'm saying to you is a bit oversimplified to get to the direct point of the story. All right, so people are abandoning this area, and we're in a valley in between the hills. The Tiber River was a river that would flood often. And you have, after centuries and centuries, that everything was eventually covered over in dirt. And I have proof of this for you guys. I'm going to show you how this happened. Now, forgive me for saying guys a lot. I'm realizing right now, because Pips had mentioned to me, and so did my mother, and so did Pip's mother, that I say guys a lot. So I'm just not going to say y'all. Maybe I'll just try it some other way. I was coming up with some other things, but it's something that's just an initial thing that happens to me. But let's take a look at what is my proof. So we have here the Temple of Antoninus and Faustina, right? You have it built in 141 AD when the Empress Faustina died. So her husband loved her very much, and he had this dedicated to her. And then he died as well. Now, if you can see up at the top, it says in the inscription, let's see if I can close up, yes. Divo Antonino et Dive Faustinae ex senatus consultum. So, to the divine Emperor Antoninus and to the divine Faustina, out of the decree, ex senato consultum, out of the decree by the Senate. And then we have a wonderful Baroque facade for a medieval church. It's called San Lorenzo in Miranda. Now, if you think about this, guys, all these temples, right? This is a reconstruction, the staircase here. And it was always that you were meant to walk up to the temple. Well, for the priests. Normal people couldn't walk inside. But the door here, San Lorenzo Miranda, where are the steps? How did the people get inside the church? Well, guess what? There was no need for steps. This is a 17th century, so built in the 1600s facade. That was the street level at that time. How else can I prove that? Look at this. Okay, so if we can look at the columns, and by the way, these are monolithic columns, carved one solid piece at a time from a marble that they love to say is Cipollina marble. Ciao, Guglian, Luca. Okay, I see all these guys writing messages. Anyway, you see the holes there. There are two sets of three, and then another set of two. That is because you have to imagine there are photographs for it, and I'm sure Francesca has it on her virtual tour, where they had iron gates in between the columns to create a portico for the church. Another thing is, up at the top, do you see these rings? All right, these rings around here. Now, there are different stories, and I know a lot of guys are watching this, so they can always add in if it's a different version that they've heard of. So what I have heard is, well, first of all, maybe it was because the monks were building a roof. Remember, this was a collapsed temple, partially collapsed temple. They were building a church inside it, and so they were holding up the roof from ropes. But as you guys know, I studied theater, so I always go for the more dramatic. And the idea is that they carved out those rings to try to destroy the temple. So they pulled up the ropes into the rings, and they tried to pull down the temple and destroy it. We're not actually certain why, but the rings are there. It's probably more of them, you know, using it to build a roof for the church itself. Now, I also want to show you something else here that many people don't like. It's not that they don't like to, they just don't look at this that much, but I find it fascinating. Even before the Roman Forum was built, this is the Archaic cemetery that was found here. Right? This was found as a burial ground before the Roman started. We're talking about 10th century, 900 years BC, where they found bodies, but they also found when they had cremations, they would put the remains in urns shaped like huts that the first Romans lived in. And we have all examples of this in the wonderful museums. See, this is a place, guys, that really lends to having a guide go through with you, because what we do, what our job is, and many of you already know this, is that we make these places come alive. We're able to read the ruins for you. And I can tell you something else that's really wonderful, is that if you go on a tour with me, or you go on a tour with Francesca, or Luca, or Federica, or Grayson, or Thomas, this is our open stage. And we all have different stories to tell, and you're all going to have a wonderful experience. Just remember that when you come back here, and think about it when you go through our virtual tours. I said that we have like 5 different virtual tours for the Vatican, when we were also famous for doing a 5-hour tour of the ancient city. So we do have great virtual tours. We have a virtual tour of the Colosseum with Luca. We have a virtual tour of the Palatine Hill with Grayson. We have a virtual tour of the Forum with Francesca. We have a virtual tour of the Imperial Forums with Cinzia. So I guess we have that about 4 hours, and then we have another tour for the Pantheon, so let's just stick that in as well. Looking over here, guys, this is always one of these wonderful time periods for me, because this is, I always say, the best at the sunset, and we're really lucky because it's kind of clouded right now. This is the Reggia, that was the house of, well, the seat of the high priest, or supposedly the king of ancient Rome. And he loved to be, it was built by Numa, because his daughters became what were known as the first Vestal Virgins. This is the Temple of Vesta that we have right over here, everybody. Okay, and it's under restoration. It has been reconstructed, but we can even have access into the house of the Vestal Virgins up at the base of the Palatine Hill. A thing I want to talk about, because as you guys know, I like to look at the floors. Augustus was famous for saying, "I came to Rome, it was brick, and I left it marble." All right? It's because he said that mostly Rome was made of brick, and it was his point to glorify it and make it a city filled with wonders that the world had never seen. Okay, guys. So, here, just as a beautiful view of the statues of the Vestal Virgins that we can walk right through in what have been the atrium. Remember, their house would have been much larger, but in case in point of their prime real estate here. The Vestal Virgins themselves, there were usually 6 on duty at the time, and it was their job to keep sure that the flame was always lit, among many other things. They were quite distinctive as they walked through the city. Somebody's taking a family photo. It's because they wore clothes and their hair was set in a very specific way that only other women were allowed to wear this when they were getting married. So you could pick them out easily in the crowd. She's one of the few ones with her head left. One would think that they would be great beauties, but not from this example right here. I'm a bit cynical. Well, anyway, all right, guys. So here's another look at the house of the temple, no, excuse me, the house of the Vestal Virgins. Okay, we're gonna walk back out through here, because what I want to do is I want to walk further down into the Forum, because we're going to talk about more of the story of Julius Caesar. That's how we're going to finish the tour. Don't be concerned, guys, that people aren't wearing their masks here, because there is enough for social distancing. I'm hoping the fact is that these are families together, trying to keep my distance. All right. Remember, guys, as we're walking around, because I have to walk and talk, it's a bit difficult for me. You can add in any other notes that you would like to see. It's always nice to see. Here we have another guide who is working. In Italian. Alrighty. Oh, look at the light. It's perfect. It's really beautiful. Another amazing building, they're doing a lot of construction, though, is the Curia. This dates back, it was built by the Emperor Diocletian. It was the third Diocletian. It was the third Curia ever built. It is really intact, under a lot of restoration right now. And on one of the podcasts that we're going to be promoting, Caterina and I, Caterina, who did a lovely tour with us of the Copa Day section with our TE Walks Live, and she does a wonderful virtual tour of Caravaggio and of the Jewish ghetto area. We were talking about something that I love, and she loves too. She brought it up to me, and I was like, of course, it's perfect. Let us talk about opus sectile, these wonderful, let's say, inlay colored marble stones, because everyone thinks that Rome was white marble, and that's a lot of what we see left. Isn't this wonderful to just walk by, guys? Think about it. Here, at least, you can touch the marble. You should never do this with statues and stuff, but if it's laying around like this, I think it's always perfect. And you can also think that these places, oops, I almost tripped, the Roman Forum is like a giant jigsaw puzzle missing pieces, and ideally these things are laid out nearby where they should be, where these archaeologists think that they will be. I always say that archaeology is a bit of guesswork. Okay, now, we're gonna walk through the Arch of Augustus. There we go, you can see right there. This is all that's left of it. If you guys saw my little preview, I, of course, showed you the most beautiful, the arches. There were 3 of them left. Let's go through. There were 3 of them left, and I showed you the most beautiful one, the Arch of Titus, that dated back to 60 AD. Okay, so as we're going through here, I wanted to point out to you, I did mention that, Julius Caesar was not assassinated in the Roman Forum. He had aspirations, right? He ended up becoming the dictator for life. But that didn't work out for him. The Senate was always worried about him, and so they were going to assassinate him. And according to history, the historians who wrote about this, we have Tacitus, Suetonius, others who are writing about the life of Caesar, among other people. They said that he was warned, and William Shakespeare took up these writings and wrote a play about Julius Caesar, where we have the soothsayer Spurna saying, "Beware!" I always like to give him a pirate accent. "Beware the Ides of March." That's what Spurna would say. And then you had another thing that's kind of funny over here, guys. Gents, how about that? That's still too corny. I don't know what to call you. Everybody. Up in there, there's a wonderful piazza area. Do you see that's the San Giuseppe Falegnami? That's the Church of St. Joseph of the Carpenters. That's the Arch of Septimus Severus. But anyway, up there is a piazza, and then you have the Roman Forum as a backdrop. And that's where my friends and I, we would do a show. We were called the Miracle Players. We did them for about 12 years, and then we decided to stop. But we have been doing them since like 2000 and 2012. And we did plays like Caesar, More Than Just a Salad. And I was very excited because I got to play Caesar's wife, Calpurnia. And I insisted that I use a fan, even though that had nothing to do with Calpurnia. And I got a wig, but it was kind of like a shake and go wig. Anyway, so she begged Caesar not to meet the Senate. Where was Caesar meeting the Senate? Well, if you guys like to go see the Largo Torre Argentina, where there's a cat shelter, it was nearby there. In between there and Campo dei Fiori, there was the spot where Julius Caesar met his aunt. He was assassinated, and it was said that he looked at Brutus and said, "Et tu, Brute?" And even you, Brutus. Or, as he may have spoken Greek, "Kai tu, teknon," and even you, my son. What we're looking at right here is a basilica. That's the Temple of Castor and Pollux, but this is the Basilica of Julius Caesar, okay? It's one of 3 basilicas where the Romans would meet and have business transactions and legal transactions, all right? How big were they? Well, if you look again up at the capitals, the top parts of the Temple of Castor and Pollux, that's probably how high the ceilings were, and the basilicas were places where they would have a central nave and minor naves on either side. Unfortunately, the road behind it used to be open. It's closed for the moment. This is such a wonderful time. Many guides love to take a full day tour of Rome, and we end around in the Forum. Even though it's August, it's not unbearably hot right now. Things are starting to cool off. It makes us think about September and October. Just for you guys, when you're preparing to come back to Italy, that's some of the best time to go in to a trip to Italy. Now, if you look over here, again, as I said, this was the central square of the Forum, all right? There you could see, well, here, another symbol. That's what we used to do. There is the Curia in the background, everybody. But then we also have the stone of Lacus Curtius. This is of a great man who sacrificed everything for the nation, for Rome itself. The Romans were always known for this incredible sense of solidarity. They say here that a pit had broken open it was going to end the world, and that he courageously, valiantly jumped in to the pit with his horse, and it got sealed. Did you also know that here, as Julius Caesar, hold on, I'm going to just work out. This is also where they say that gladiator games took place. Before the Colosseum was ever built, they would have temporary gladiator games here, and that they found a series of tunnels throughout this area. So the archaeologists have deduced that they probably had gladiator fights at some point, at some time. Now, another thing here, also, we have the Column of Focus, which was the last monument ever built into the Forum. It was by a pope who gave it, Boniface IV, who gave it to the emperor, Byzantine Emperor Phocas, as Phocas had presented him with a wonderful building, the Pantheon. Anyway, if you look beyond this, you can see that corner right there. The column itself blocks a lot of it, but that is a corner of what is known as the Rostrum. So go beyond the column again, and we have part of that wall. All right, and look over here. We have these trees. All right, the archaeologists have replanted them here because they said, the ancient historians said, that there was always an olive tree, a fig tree, and a vine. I wanted to point those out specifically to you because they're going to help us out with our story. Now, the story of Julius Caesar, that wall that I was showing you, was the wall of the rostrum. The rostrum, you can imagine, what is the rostrum? Rostrum means the prow, well, the beak of a bird, or the prow of a ship. Okay? And the Romans, ever since the Battle of Anzio, they ripped off the prows of their enemies' ships. They would place them along that wall, and that is a podium where the great speakers spoke to the people of Rome. There are a few rostra, or rostrums, in the Roman Forum, but for intents and purposes for my story, we're going to say that was the main one. That is the one where we have Brutus speaking to the people of Rome. Okay? And when he spoke to the people of Rome, he had Mark Antony, maybe you can have in mind Marlon Brando, or any other wonderful actor who could do this. But Mark Antony came up and said, "May I speak to the people of Rome? Don't worry, I'm not going to put you in any bad light. I'm not going to speak against you guys." Brutus said, "Yes, the minute you do, I'm going to get rid of you." So he allowed Mark Antony to speak up on that rostrum and say wonderful words to the people of Rome. And then we could see what happened. And it's a real pleasure to share this with you guys because this is how I started doing these tours. This is how I was able to bring back my theatricality into it. Now, if you could see, there is, again, here, let me just focus in on it. The wall behind the olive trees. So, that is the podium where Mark Antony spoke to the people of Rome and said to them, "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The good that men do lives within their bones, and the evil lives after them. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you that Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it were a grievous fault. And grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men. Come I to speak at Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man. You all that see on the loop recall that I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure he is an honorable man." You have to imagine, as the speech would continue, incredibly enough, what he did, what Mark Antony did, was he changed the mood of the mob. And it is at that point where they all started to rent their clothes, grab anything flammable, pile it on his body. Remember, the historians write about this, so the archaeologists are more or less in agreement that this is a spot where his body was laid to rest, and they cremated him right here. And then, after that, a civil war broke out. Where you have, it took many years, but where you have Mark Antony and Augustus defeating the enemies, Brutus and Cassius. Then there was another war between the two of them, Mark Antony and Augustus. And in 26 BC, remember, Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC. So 26 BC, that is when Augustus came back. And he said, you know what, I am the adopted son. My name is Octavius, or Octavian, I never remember which. I'm the adopted son of Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar could always claim his lineage to the goddess Venus through the founders of Rome and beyond, to a man named Aeneas from Troy. Aeneas' father was Anchises, and they say that his mother was a goddess Venus. And through that, he had the divine, well, he was a demigod. And now that he is dead, we have the apotheosis. He has become a god. And this really talks about and explains in a storytelling way how the Roman Republic became a Roman Empire. And everybody, I wanted to say that I believe that this will conclude our tour in one of my favorite places in this city, the Great Forum. Hopefully I've been able to spark your imaginations. Thank you for joining me in this live experience. Please share it with anybody else who you think may want to see it. Please let everybody know about what we're doing, that these are what we do when you come into Italy, but that we have these incredible virtual tours that you can see Italy and help out our guides. Please spread the word around. Again, thanks for joining our TE Walks Live. My name is Rob Allen, founder of Through Eternity. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody right now. Ciao, ciao.